Hi everybody, it's me Jessica, and today I am going to tell you the story about my wedding day. This is a day that every little girl dreams about their entire life, down to all the little details, all the things that they want for this perfect day to happen. Until the day happens and things don't necessarily go as planned, as I'm sure you can probably relate to. When I was growing up, it was just me and my mom. She was a single parent raising just myself. And I was growing up with just her, and she had many siblings, but there was one sister who she was very close to, who was married to a guy who they had 3 children, and they were, to me, like this idyllic family. They had the big mansion, they had the family, they had the dogs, the land, the yard, the mansion, they had the white picket fence, they had everything that was the idyllic American home and everything that you could imagine that you would want and look up to in a family. My aunt was really fun. She was always taking us places, doing fun things. She was very just an energetic, spunky, spontaneous person. Would always do amazing, fun, cool things. She was a cool aunt. And my uncle was somebody who I really looked up to. He was a businessman, and he had he was just the only father figure that I had in my life, and creating good values, integrity, setting good standards, that kind of thing. And so when I was young, I would ask him at a very, very young age, when I get married one day, who's going to walk me down the aisle? And he said, I will. And we used to kid and joke about that, and I would ask him from time to time and ask him the same question over and over again, and he would always respond that way. And then we would always, she would have parties at her house, and every weekend it was just, we would always sing and dance around the house. That was really a big thing. We were always, just, it was full of people, full of fun all the time, and always dancing and singing and all kinds of fun stuff. And I would say, when are you, I said to my uncle, when are you ever going to dance with me? And he said, I'll dance with you at your wedding. And so as a young child, those are things that kind of stick with you, and they don't really leave you, because this was something that was not just a one-time thing. It was something that I would ask over and over and over again, and it was very meaningful to me. And I pretty much held him to that in my mind, and whether he really knew that or not. And fast forward, I was probably now 16 years old, and my aunt and uncle ended up getting a divorce, and she was my mom's sister, so he was just by marriage, and he kind of just left, and I never really got to see him after that, and didn't really have any closure or connection. I wasn't really able to see him. There just wasn't any closure, or I missed him terribly. The family kind of split up, and that was really hard for me for a very, very long, long time. It was like my family split up and was divorced, and it was very hard to handle. So at that point, going through all of that and so forth, right? Fast forward to when I was 28 years old, and I go and get married. And at that point, I still had never talked to my uncle or seen him or had a relationship at all with him. And I go to get married, and I ask my aunt, I said, um, when I had to choose someone to walk me down the aisle, and I had asked her, I said, I want to invite him to the wedding. And that's all I said. I said, I just want to invite him to the wedding. And she got really, really upset. And she said to me that if you invite him, that she and her kids were not going to come to the wedding. And I felt that it was pretty much going to start a war, and I felt that I had to choose sides, and that I wasn't, or I shouldn't pick someone against basically blood, right? My mom's sister. So I had to choose her and leave things alone and not invite him. And so I just, said, okay, guess he can't come to my wedding. And she tried to say, there's other people that can walk you down the aisle. At that point, I had connected with my real father and his side of the family. So I had him, I had my grandfather, who I met on that side as well. My mom was dating someone for a very long term, that he was a significant part of my life. I had so many people that could have stepped up and could have filled that role. I had no shortage of people who could have walked me down the aisle. But in my mind, that position was only for him. And so I actually never really verbalized that, and I didn't really say that to anybody. It's just something I kept to myself. And so when there was the opportunity for someone to do that, I just declined and said that I'll just walk myself down the aisle and I'll just do it by myself, being an independent person that I am, and I can do this by myself anyway. I don't need anybody, and that spot was really for him. So as I was walking down the aisle, I thought of him and I missed him, and I thought, God, I wish he could be here. I wish he could walk me down the aisle. I wish that he could see me. And it hurt that he wasn't there for that special moment in my life that I had dreamed of my whole life, that he said that he would be there for, and he wasn't there because my aunt didn't want him to be there. But what can you do, right? So I got married, and there was the first dance, and he wasn't there, and he wasn't dancing with me, and it was sad. And he was missing, and nobody knew that was on my mind, and that was bothering me. But I continued on with the day. I had the most amazing wedding. It was gorgeous. It was beautiful. It was the most amazing day. And then fast forward 5 years later, and I was sitting in this personal development course where essentially the course was about kind of making right with people from your past, and kind of clearing up past trauma and making things kind of right from your past, making people, whoever you had basically beef with in the past, making it right and trying to clear things up so that you didn't kind of hold on to this pain, feelings, anger, all that kind of thing, moving forward. And so he was somebody who I felt this type of pain towards, where I felt this hole in my heart, and I felt that something was missing. I felt this I just felt a hole, like incomplete, and I felt that there was not closure, and I felt almost abandoned, and I knew it wasn't me specifically, but all I wanted to say was I wanted to call him, and I just wanted to tell him that I loved him. And I ended up calling my cousin and asking for his phone number, and she said to me, look, I don't want to start any issues and problems, and she was hesitant to give me the phone number, and I said, look, I'm not trying to start anything, I just want to tell him that I love him. And she, out of the blue, without me even saying anything about anything, because literally that is the only thing I had said to her, she said to me, her next words were, Jess, you know that he was at your wedding, right? And I said, I just lost it. And I said, what? What do you mean? She said, he snuck into your wedding and he watched you walk down the aisle. And he said you were so beautiful. I lost it. I could not believe that he did that. And I called him immediately. I hadn't talked to him in so many years. I called him basically crying and screaming over the phone. He probably had no idea who the hell it was. And I told him that I loved him and that I can't believe that he honored his word after all those years. He said, Jess, I told you I was going to be there for your special day, and I wouldn't have missed it for the world. And this man had integrity, and he was there no matter what. He was the kind of man that honored his word. Like, he had integrity. I could not believe that he did that. It just meant the absolute world to me that he was there and watched me walk down the aisle when that's all I wanted. And so we decided to meet up, and we had dinner together, and we came together and had dinner. It was, you know, he had a new girlfriend, I had my husband, and we all sat down at the table and had dinner. And the second that we sat down at that table, this feeling came over me where it was a rush of where this hole was in my heart. It completely was closed and filled, and I felt whole and complete again. Like, that was all I needed, was closure and to feel complete. And I got to see him several more times after that and have a little bit more of a relationship with him. For a little while, we kept meeting up and just having a little bit more closure and talking about our lives and beliefs and all of the things that we've missed for so long. And we talked and had all of the conversations that I had wanted to have for so many years, and I got to say all the things I wanted to say. And I only had a short period of time to be with him, and then he passed. And I'm so lucky and so glad that I got to have that little bit of time left with him. And I love him. And I realized that that story that I had as a little girl that I wanted to have my wedding to be this certain way that it was, it absolutely did not turn out to be that way. And this story that came to be, it wasn't the same way that I expected or wanted it to be. It turned out quite different. And it turned out to be now my story. And now this is my story that I get to tell. It's different, but it's way better. I couldn't have picked a better story to have told than the way that it really truly came to be. And sometimes I think in life you just have to go with it, be okay with the changes that happen, and have gratitude for the way that things turn out, because things are not on your timeline and don't always end up the way that you've planned them. They will have twists and turns, and they will be different than your expectations, but have gratitude in it, see the beauty in it. There is always beauty and positivity in every situation when you find it. And I'm just so blessed and so glad that this is my story and this is the way that it turned out. And now I have this wonderful, beautiful story to tell, and I'm just so lucky and so glad I got to have this closure. So that is my wedding story, and I'm sure you guys have a different kind of story to tell too about something that happened in your life, and I would love to hear your story sometime. So please share with me. Thank you for listening.